Morning, everybody. Kat Hutchison here, a Good Measure Bakers and Delicatessen. A lot of people have been buying our bread starter or asking questions about how to use it. So when you buy it, the first thing you want to do is bring it to room temperature and replenish it. So that way you get double the amount of what you bought. And you're only buying a pint-sized jar, this is a quart-sized jar, for $8. So if you can continually replenish this starter, which is how I sold it to you, why not? So anyhow, I should have got up at 4 a.m., but I didn't. So no condemnation. I didn't work out, I know. But my husband was getting up to go to the bathroom at 4 a.m. when he heard my alarm. And I go, babe, will you get the starter out of the refrigerator and bring it to room temperature? Because I knew what I wanted to do this morning. I wanted to, one, replenish my starter before I used it. And my plan is this morning, I would like to make 3 different loaves. So here we're going to go with the replenishing process. This is my starter that I kept in the refrigerator. This is the same starter that I sell to you. So I'm going to show you what it looks like. So you can see here. And look at the bubbles. That sat in the refrigerator, and when it came to room temperature, it got bubbly like that. So what we're going to do, oh my Lord, I can smell it too. Now that I took the top off, you can actually smell that fermenty, sourdoughy smell. So what I'm going to do now is stir it up really good. And I've got my measuring cups because I'm going to start the 10-hour process of raising sourdough bread. So I'll be baking it this evening and packaging, once it's cool enough, packaging it so it'll be in the store on Wednesday. So the idea here is for every half cup that you remove of starter, you're going to replace a half cup of flour and a half cup of warm water. I know that for at least the 2 loaves that I want to use, I need a 1/4 cup. So we're going to start there. It's pretty simple. It's always just like, how do I get it out and back in? So I'm going to do it with this. That looks like about a half a cup. Yep, that's 4 ounces. So I got my half cup. Now I also know I'm going to use a 1/4 cup for a sourdough loaf. So I'm going to take this. There's my half cup, and I'm going to add it to the 3/4 cup line. Okay, 200 grams is actually 2/3 of a cup, but the 3/4 cup line is right here between the 8 and the 4. So now your question is going to be, well, Kat, how are you going to add in back that 1/4 cup? Well, that's simple. You're going to add in a 1/4 cup of flour and water. I mean, if you really do the math on it, it's very, very simple. So we got like next to no starter here, right? Well, that's not true, because you've got 3/4 cups of starter in here. And that's going to be for the 3 loaves that I plan on making. So one is going to be a sandwich loaf, one is going to be a larger artisan loaf, and one is going to be a smaller artisan loaf. And then I'm going to replenish my starter, which will take another 2 days to actually, do its whole beautiful starter process. So, and you can see there's like next to nothing in here, right? Well, that's not true. There's a bunch of starter in the bottom. So before we do anything else, we're going to kind of just do that. And kind of scrape down the sides, get it all to the bottom. And there. So next process is we know we removed a half cup and a 1/4 cup of starter. So we're going to replace with 3/4 cups of flour and 3/4 cups of warm water. So 3/4 cups. Start running your warm water, and it just needs to be tap warm. Some people freak out. You're like, oh, you can't use tap water. Totally untrue. Totally untrue. But you're probably thinking to yourself, well, how much starter is that going to feed? Well, if your starter is very healthy, that's gonna replenish a lot of starter. And I'm not going to some extreme here and putting it in a different container or anything else. I'm going to show you exactly what I'm going to do with it, which is the beautiful process of starter. So just kind of waiting for my water to warm up. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to get, sorry, just so you see, when I'm measuring, I'm actually taking the knife and scraping off my flour so that I've got almost an exact measurement. The beautiful thing with starter is it's very hard to mess it up. But yes, you can mess it up. You can mess it up because of I want to say like you know, heating, like maybe it wasn't hot enough or something, you know. So I mean there's ways to mess it up. So let's just quickly and carefully and without making a huge mess get our flour back inside the jar. And this was the jar that the starter came out of. I made this starter, well, I've been maintaining this starter for a while, but that's the jar the starter came out of. We're going to put everything back in the jar. Then we're going to cover it with a loose cloth. So, and I've got my 3/4 cups of water here. I'm actually going to pour it over the sink because I'm hating hot. Then, so I just added the flour and the water, as you can see. And then I've just got my whiskey thing. I'm just going to whisk it up. And it looks like pancake batter at this point. But as you saw, replenishing that starter, it was very bubbly when it came to room temperature. And all that means was while it was in the refrigerator, it was put to bed. It was resting, which all of us need. But when it came to life, when it was, you know, brought to room temperature, it was bubbly, it was beautiful looking, and there you go, you got your starter. So I'm just gonna do that and just kind of get everything scraped down, and boom. And you can see it's like pancake batter at this point, which is really neat, right? So wipe my counter up real quick. All right, this is the next thing that we're gonna do. So this is just a piece of cheesecloth. That's all this is. And I'm just gonna wipe down the rim. So just a piece of cheesecloth, and it just gives the starter breathing space, you know, so it can exchange gases over the next 2 to 4 days. Honestly, because this is such an active starter to begin with, it's probably going to take 1.5 days. But so just put the cheesecloth over the top, and you kind of press down your you know, your they call them a band. Can't even think this morning. And that's it. I'm going to put this away in my top counter, or my top cupboard way up high where I do all my starter, and give it a couple of days, and then look at it, which I'll film the next process. And because if I plan on using it that day, I'll use it that day. If not, it's going to go right in the refrigerator to use again. But that's all you do. I mean, I removed 3/4 of starter, but that's because I plan on making 3 loaves. When you get your starter, what you want to do is already have like, a quart-sized jar ready to go to replenish your starter right away. So you would do the same thing. You would take out half the starter, which would be half a cup, and then add a half a cup of flour and a half a cup of warm water. The starter always has to be room temperature, and you want to see these bubbles on it before you actually mix it up. But that's the simple process. Happy bread baking, and don't forget, Jesus is the bread of life. So, and thanks for tuning in.